Hey silly, welcome back to another video, or hello if you are new. Today we are back in Summit Sanctuary Zoo, doing some very exciting things. I'm finally working on some habitats. Well, okay, obviously I've been working on some habitats for a while now. There are actually lynx in the zoo right now. But I pretty much just built the habitat, the water features, the big sort of manufactured features that are in the zoo, and then nothing. I didn't put any plants. I didn't put any, like, terrain work. I did nothing. I just left it. I usually build in pause mode, so my animals were not in crisis. I just hadn't really done anything for them yet. So in this episode, I finally decided it's time. It is time to actually put some foliage in this zoo. And that's what I did. I went through. I am going to do the lynx habitat today. I am also going to work on the fallow deer and mute swan habitat. That is going to be a majority of this episode actually, because of the rock work and the size of the fallow deer habitat. It's incredibly large. Yes, very large. So I had to spend some time making that look good. And it did indeed take a lot of time. By the way, an update to something I said a long time ago, probably like episode 8 or 9, when I was working in the lynx habitat originally. Whatever episode I did the lynx cave in, I mentioned that I had never seen them actually walk into the cave before, and that I needed to check if it was actually traversable, because I didn't actually ever do that, which was, you know, an oversight on my part. So I did at some point recently go and check the cave, and as it turns out, it was not fully navigational. There was a section that was, but there was some rocks that were blocking it, and all I had to do really was lift it up just a tiny bit, and now they can fully go inside of it, inside the cave, and that's very exciting. So hopefully when I actually do my tour of this zoo, which is coming some point, I don't know. I feel like we're about halfway through the zoo right now. So this is coming out, I think, early March, if I have that correct in my brain. Which means probably around May, I would guess. Maybe the end of May is when we will finally be able to do a full tour of this zoo. And I will say, going forward, I will not be making zoos this large unless I have another zoo that I can work on a little bit quicker at the same time, so that you guys aren't waiting months and months for a completed zoo. This is just something that I have been working on for the past year. It's been, I think, almost exactly a year at this point, because I'm recording this now at the end of January, and I started it last January. So as you can imagine, this zoo has been a long time for a whole year of my life I've been working on this zoo. Not consistently and not like overdoing it, just as you can see. Lots of hours put into this zoo, but I do think it's worth it because the views are fantastic. And I just, yeah. I'm very excited finally to show you guys animals, if you can't tell. So yeah, here we go with the deer habitat, and I'm just gonna give you some forewarning. I do cut a fair bit of this out because it took me so long. I'm not even joking. This took me like 3 or 4 days. I had done some of these bigger rock structures already, so that helped because I was able to copy paste some of the rock work and kind of make it work for the area. The problem is a lot of this is riverbank, and I didn't want the same rock formation on the riverbank as I did on like the cliffside. So I had to spend a lot of time making this river bank look good. And so most of it is fairly rocky and steep, but there are some sections that the animals can enter. Specifically more on the other side is kind of the open pond area, so they don't imagine they're going to be swimming too much in the river on this side of the bridge, but you know, at the orientation right now on the left side of the bridge, there's, as I said, a much less steep pond area that they can kind of swim in, and they do. There's a lot of animals in the pond when I do my little cinematic at the end of this episode, and I mentioned it in another episode, but these animals were cooperating with me so well for some of these cinematics because they line themselves up perfectly, and it looks cute. It looks very serene, this whole habitat. Also, this bridge, you know, I don't remember how much I showed of me building this bridge, but there is actually a path under there, and not only do the guests walk across it, but the animals walk across it too, which is so cool. The deer, they just kind of go right along the bridge, and imagine if you were a guest and you're walking in this habitat and you get to this like concrete bridge and there's just a deer hanging out on it, just walking along, just right with you, crossing the river. It's fantastic. For the record, no animals actually have to cross the bridge. They can go around. There is land entry to all parts of this habitat. There's just a lot of water features in this habitat because there's swans, obviously, and I wanted it to look fairly natural. So, yeah. As you can see, it's taking me kind of a long time to figure out if I like this style for the riverbank. I built some, I look at it, I look at some Pinterest photos, I decide if it's realistic enough, and rinse, repeat. I think I do eventually copy paste some of it. The problem is with copy pasting these sections is that the steepness is not the same. The gradient, just everything, slope, it's not, it doesn't exactly fit, and it makes it really difficult for me to feel like I'm making realistic riverbanks if like I can't angle the rocks properly. So I kind of went with it for some of this section because I wanted it to be a little bit steeper in terms of the rock and not necessarily the actual bank, if that makes sense. So I wanted the sort of the way the rock actually goes out to simulate the edge and not necessarily the slope of the bank of the actual land, because it's not as steep, and I did want it to be a little bit harsher on some of the sections. And then of course I had a waterfall feature in the back of this habitat and struggled with that immensely. The waterfall features are so I never feel like I make them right. I don't know. It just always looks a little bit off to me, and I don't know if it's just me or just the way it is It definitely looks off in the speed build because the water is going so quickly. It doesn't look natural for sure. But part of that is just the sped up footage, don't worry. The other part is just the weird water feed. I wish there was, there's one that I really like. It's like a Ripple, or it's not the Ripple one though. There's something else. There's like a fountain based one. And I really like the way the water comes out of the spout, but there's this feature. There's like a ripple feature on the surrounding areas from spout as well. It's supposed to be on the top of the water, right? And then it's like rippling with the water droplets hitting the surface of the water. Makes sense if you put it on the top of water, but I like it for other things. And then you just have this like giant ripple effect that you can like sometimes see and sometimes not see. So, you know, every once in a while it works out to use it, but most of the time it's doesn't look right. So you just have to remove it somehow. But yeah. So Planet Coaster 2 had not come out at this point in me building this. Man, looking at it now, do I wish I had Planet Coaster 2 scaling for the rocks. That is like, as a builder, honestly, the rock scaling is probably the feature I'm going to be using the most in Planet Coaster 2, which sounds crazy because like rocks of all the things, but I'm serious. The rock scaling is so unbelievably helpful to making cliff sides and like any kind of nice looking solid rocks. It's just, the rocks are so small compared to some of the cliff sides that I want to build in Planet Zoo. And if I could just make that rock a little bit larger to have the texture of the rock and not the weird edges when you're trying to like mesh the rocks together, it just, no matter how well you do it, it doesn't ever look natural to me. And I've seen plenty of people build really, really good ones. And I appreciate their work and I do think it looks good. It's just that I notice the seams of the rocks and it bothers me. And it never looks as smooth as like, and it doesn't look either as smooth or as textured as a normal cliffside does. And so that's what annoys me. That's what makes me wish desperately for Planet Coaster 2 scaling in Planet Zoo. Literally just give me a bigger rock. Honestly, like that would be fine. But also imagine those aquatic rocks, just smaller. They would look like actual pebbles. I know there are smaller rocks in the game and I know you can get that pebble effect, but it would be so much easier if you actually just had a smaller aquatic rock. So here are the animals, clearly. Oh, and I got super lucky. I got an albino in my zoo market. That doesn't usually happen to me, so I was surprised to have that albino in there, but I did get one, and so I have animal death turned off, so presumably this albino will be in the final iteration of my zoo, provided everything else works right. So lots of swans, lots of deer coming, and then I do start with the habitat foliage and things. Which, as you can imagine, is going to take forever. So now that I have like 30 plus animals in this habitat, which I'm not even joking, I actually think there's close to 50 animals in that habitat. It's fine because it's big enough. There's no space issue. It's just an abundance of animals. I don't know. I think there's probably 20 swans and maybe 15 deer total. Something like that. So it's a lot. It's a lot. But the good thing is that with the animal interactions, the animals should not be too stressed by people crowding around them, because there's plenty of animals in this habitat to interact with. Though, as I mentioned, a lot of them hang out in the water. Like most of them, I would say, hang out in the water. Especially the swans, obviously. They just swim around, and that's good. Very good and fine. I did make sure to put all of the habitat enrichment items kind of towards the main path, even though the guests can walk around wherever they want in this habitat. I did still want to make sure that the animals have a reason to sort of come forward and not just hang out in the like back end of the habitat. It's very large, so there's lots of, I feel like this is the kind of habitat that has the potential to have guests say that the view is bad of the animals, even though they're literally in the habitat with the animals, because it's just so huge that it's potentially difficult to see all the animals, and or they could be quite far from the guests wherever they are at any given point. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't think it will, because as I was doing my cinematics and things, they seem to walk around quite well, so I'm not all that worried about it. But to be honest, you guys, this is a really long video, and I don't particularly feel like narrating the entire thing. I think I'm just gonna leave you guys with some very chill Planet Zoo music and let you guys watch me put all of these plants down in very rapid succession. Hopefully it'll be a nice chill episode for you, and as I mentioned, stay tuned to the end to see the cinematic when we finally get there, because I am very much looking forward to seeing your guys' reaction to this habitat at the end. So if you liked the video, please make sure to give it a like. Consider subscribing if you'd like to see more content from me, and follow the playlist for all previous speed builds and future speed builds. Join my Discord if you want to hang out and chat about things Planet Zoo and the other games that I play on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye!